All right. Well, the 10-year rule is often talked about. And to be honest with you, it's really not that exciting to me.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be something great, and really, it's quite frankly, it's not. So what the 10-year rule is it's basically I'll give you the streamlined as you can get because it's very lackluster, I believe. And I feel like you, Clay, like just clouds and just you know garbage. All right, so
Welcome.
here's welcome to your world. Yeah,
Yeah.
down with consulting companies. All right,
Yeah.
so the 10-year rule is essentially the VA saying that if you have a service connected condition for a period of 10 years, they cannot take that service connected condition away from you, right? They can reduce you. That's different because you still have your condition. You're still rated for it, but you could be rated 0, right? So you could theoretically go from a 50% rating to a 0% rating in 11 years after you got rated, right?
Hmm.
That is possible. But what's not possible, with the exception of fraud, is the complete removal of your condition. And they cannot rate you lower than the minimum rating for that rating schedule, which oftentimes there's a 10% as a minimum. There's zeros, but there's tens too. So that's all it is. It protects your service connection for that condition. Now, here's the thing: if you have a service connected condition that has some secondaries off of it that are higher ratings, at least you know that even if that thing got reduced down to a 0, and remember, you're past the 5-year rule. So they would have to have material evidence. They'd have to have more than one re-examination of that specific condition. Let's call it cancer, right? You had cancer. It's been 12 years, right? And now finally it goes into remission. Well, they're going to reduce you for that cancer because it's in remission. Now there's the residuals that you can now file for and get taken care of. But just as an example, right? Your rating itself is not protected. Your 50% or whatever you have over 10 years is not protected yet. Like,
Not yet. We're almost there though, right?
we're getting there.
Uh, what the 5, 10, 20, and even the 55-year rule mean to me is basically a big plate of so what, right? Because there's always that unless dot dot dot, um, which is just it's very funny in a VA diabolical way. Welcome to the stormy cloud of Clay
Yes,
Zenzo.
yes. Thank you.
Now, the 10-year rule, there are some conditions that you genuinely do not want for 10 years. As an example, if you have hypertension rated at 60%, which I don't know what the top bottom number is for that, um, but I'm not a doctor. However, I'm willing to bet my life that if you have hypertension at 60% for 10 years, you're probably dead, right? You probably died a few years ago. You didn't even make it to that 10-year rule. And so there are times when there are conditions when you don't want that for 10 years. Um, that's not the 10-year rule. That's just food for thought, right? It's not all doom and gloom, but the 10-year rule definitely protects the rating. Uh, I'm sorry, protects the service connection, but not the rating at all. I would like to show the lawyer definition or the plain language definition of this, right? Once you've received VA disability payments for a condition for 10 years, so there's still that monetary aspect to, is the VA going to take that away? The VA can't determine your benefits for the condition. Got it. Meaning service connection. The VA can still reduce your rating and therefore payments if they see significant improvement. Not, hey, doc, I feel better, right? It's got to be significant improvement. Now, if you said, hey, doc, I feel better over the last year, okay, that starts to become significant, at least for that mental health example I gave earlier in your condition, but they can't terminate your disability for the condition even if your rating was reduced during that decade. So hypertension at 0%, I think, is a solid example of one, it's commonly rated at 0%. Two, you really don't want 10% or higher for hypertension for health reasons. That would suck, and that's an understatement. And three, the 10-year rule matters because of the service connection, right? So any secondaries that stem from that, um, if they're not already established, you can still go for secondaries for hypertension. For instance, like if you're taking a diuretic medication, your hypertension is reduced to 0% at 10 years for whatever reason. You can still rate that urinary frequency as an example, which is rated at 10, 20, and 40%. So service connection is protected, which is important because that's the hard part of VBA. The rating piece is relatively easier. So yes, the 10-year rule does matter, but it's kind of like a backhand compliment, right? Because it's like, hey, you have mental health, but you're at 0%. It's like, okay, well, thanks. Just by you saying that no longer makes me 0%, right? Because I'm having a panic attack right now.
Right.
But that's the 10-year rule. Do you have anything to add to that, or do you want to move to the 20-year?
Yeah, I want to move to the 20-year because I really
All
don't like the
right.
10-year. I think the 10-year is a waste of breath, is what I think.
Yeah.
I really don't like it. It really bothers me because it's really just it's just the 5-year. This is just
hmm
pretty much still going on. I mean, really? Come on. Whatever. All right.
Now, with the 20-year rule, I said earlier, I never heard anyone explain the 20-year rule correctly, except Jason. Jason explained it correctly last week, I think, or two weeks ago,
Can't remember.
episodes ago. Can you explain 20-year rule from your perspective? Because the way you did it was just correct. It was just the right way to say it.
How about you just splice that one
No
in
pressure.
because I don't remember what I said anymore, and now I'm like put on the spot. All right. So here's what the 20-year rule is in a nutshell. And again, like everything, it's nuanced. It's
hmm
not a cut and dry thing for many of us. The 20-year rule protects your actual rating. Okay. So if you're rated 50% for this condition, right? Now remember, many of us file multiple claims. So we have all these different conditions and dates when it started. Okay. So your condition that you've had service connected for 20 years is rated at X for 20 years. You're protecting the rating that's been in place for 20 years. Now, what happens if you filed an increase?